Today, we're diving into something that so many of us have dealt with, something that can be incredibly painful: emotional unavailability. But here's the thing, we're going to look at it from a completely different angle, not as some kind of character flaw, but as a deep-seated biological survival protocol. Let's get into it.
Just let that sink in for a second. The wall that keeps you out is actually a cage designed to keep the other person safe. I mean, that one sentence completely flips the script, doesn't it? It suggests that what feels like a personal rejection to you is actually a desperate act of self-preservation for them. So this is our starting point. We're going to unpack exactly why that wall exists. What we usually call being cold or distant or just not that into you is often something else entirely. It's a subconscious survival mechanism that's been wired into their nervous system, a system that has learned somewhere along the way that getting close to someone is dangerous.
And this right here, this is the absolute core of what we're talking about today. When you're trying to get closer to somebody who's emotionally unavailable, you feel like you're in a fight for their heart, right? For their affection. But you're not. You are going up against something way more primal, a biological security system that has flagged you and the connection you're offering as a potential threat.
This leads us to something I'm sure many of you know all too well: the intimacy gap. It's that baffling, incredibly frustrating moment when the very act of trying to get closer actually makes the person you care about pull away, faster and further than ever before. Let's break down what that really looks like. Seriously, think about it. Everything's going great. The dates are fun, you're laughing, it's all smooth sailing. And then, the moment you try to deepen the connection, maybe you share something vulnerable, or you ask, hey, where is this going? Or you just need a little support, a switch flips. All of a sudden, they're slammed at work, or they start picking these tiny, ridiculous fights, or they just kind of disappear. That is the classic demand-withdraw cycle. Your request for connection is the trigger, and their system's automatic response is to withdraw. So what is actually happening inside their brain when they pull away like that? It's a phenomenon called a limbic hijack. Now, what's fascinating here is the term high-threat event. See, while you're looking for a little bit of empathy, their brain's internal alarm system, the amygdala, is just blaring danger, danger. It literally takes over, shutting down the logical, reasonable part of their brain. In that moment, their brain isn't thinking about your needs. It's just scanning for the nearest exit. It is a pure gut-level panic response. And this slide just lays out the breakdown in communication so clearly. It happens on a totally neurological level. You say, I love you, and what you mean is connection and care. Their nervous system hears threat detected. You ask, what are we? Because you're looking for a little security. Their brain hears system alert. You say, I need your support, a simple bid for partnership, but their brain translates that to loss of self imminent. It's like your language of love is being run through a danger translator before it ever reaches them.
So how does this hijack actually play out? Well, it's not random at all. It's actually a very predictable 4-step process. You can think of it as the brain's automated escape plan, a security protocol that's always running in the background. We call this the defensive withdrawal loop. Let's walk through it step by step.
Okay, so here's the sequence. It all starts with step 1, a vulnerability trigger. That's your bid for connection we were just talking about. That immediately kicks off step 2, deactivating strategies. These are mental tricks to create distance. That leads directly to step 3, effective numbing, which is a neurological shutdown of emotion. And the whole thing results in step 4, the relational wall. They're physically there, but emotionally, they are gone. Let's zoom in on those 2 middle steps for a second, because that's where the magic, or the misery, really happens. Okay, deactivating strategies. These are basically the brain's excuses to justify bailing. This is when that panicked nervous system recruits the logical mind to build a case for why this relationship is a bad idea. They might suddenly get super critical, focusing on tiny flaws of yours to convince themselves you're not right for them. Or they'll start intellectualizing everything, saying stuff like, well, logistically, this just doesn't really make sense. These sound rational, right? But they're not. They are sophisticated subconscious defenses designed to pull the plug on the connection. And that leads to maybe the most confusing and painful part of this whole thing, effective numbing. If you've ever confronted someone about being distant and they just give you this blank stare and say, I don't feel anything, this is why. Their brain has literally hit the mute button on the insula, a part of the brain that's essential for feeling emotion. And here's the kicker, they are not lying to you. The channel has been neurologically cut off. They can't give you an emotional response that they literally cannot access themselves.
So now we get the what and the how. But that brings us to the biggest question of all, why? Why on earth would a brain develop a security system that seems so bent on self-sabotage? Well, the answer is in its past and in its non-stop drive to stay safe by staying autonomous.
The key idea here is something called avoidant homeostasis. Your brain is, above all else, a prediction machine. Its number one job is to look at your past experiences, create a map of the world, and use that map to keep you safe in the future. Now, if in your early years connection was consistently followed by pain or chaos or neglect, the brain learns a very powerful lesson. Connection is unpredictable, and therefore it's dangerous. Autonomy, being on your own, well, that's predictable and safe. So the brain sets a new baseline, a homeostasis, where being alone is the default low-threat setting. The subconscious logic becomes, if I don't need anybody, then nobody can ever hurt me. And that right there is the bottom line. For a nervous system wired like this, its core programming is always going to be predictability over pleasure. It will sacrifice the potential for joy, for love, for real fulfillment, for the guaranteed safety of being alone. It's a trade-off that makes zero relational sense, but from a pure survival standpoint, it's perfectly logical. And get this, there's also a pure biological cost to all of this. Being emotionally present with another person is metabolically expensive. It literally burns your body's energy. You have to regulate your own heart rate, process their microexpressions, manage the mirror neurons that are making you feel their feelings, all while trying to stay present. For a brain that already sees connection as a threat, that energy cost is just way too high. Pulling away is, in a very real sense, an act of energy conservation. So whenever you ask for more intimacy, their subconscious brain is faced with this very stark primal choice. Option A, connected and threatened, which feels like it could lead to total disaster. Or option B, safe and lonely, which, yeah, isn't great, but it's predictable, it's survivable. And that primitive security protocol, it's going to choose safety every single time, even if it means blowing up any chance at mutual happiness. Okay, I know, this can all sound pretty discouraging, but here's the good news. Understanding the biology is the absolute first step to changing the dynamic. So how can we start working with this programming instead of just fighting against it all the time? Well, this final section is all about building a bridge, moving from a place of demanding connection to a place of creating safety. This is the fundamental strategic shift you have to make. You have to stop trying to win an argument with their logical brain and start speaking the language of their primitive brain, the language of safety. Your new mission, should you choose to accept it, is to prove to their amygdala, through your actions, that the old war they're still fighting inside is finally over.
So here are 4 real strategies you can use to build that bridge. First, titrated intimacy. Think of it like microdosing connection. Instead of demanding a 3-hour deep conversation that's going to send them running, try a simple, low-stakes 5-minute check-in. It allows for connection without setting off the alarms. Second, somatic tracking. This is for the person who withdraws. It just means you start paying attention to the physical signs of shutdown, that knot in your stomach, the urge to look away. Just noticing it helps get your rational brain back in the game. Third, the safety reframe. This means using explicit language that lowers the threat level. Saying something like, look, there's no pressure here, I just want to feel heard, can make a world of difference. And finally, and this one is maybe the most important, respect the exit strategy. And that brings us to this really powerful paradox. The feeling of being trapped is what triggers the whole defensive loop in the first place. So when you explicitly give someone permission to take space, when you respect their need for an escape route, you remove the trigger, you defuse the bomb. And when they know that the cage door is wide open, they stop feeling that frantic need to escape. And in that newfound safety, they just might choose to stay. And this last part, this is for you. This is the crucial reframe that you have to take to heart for your own sake. Their distance, their walls, their shutdown, it is not a report card on your value. It is not a final verdict on how lovable you are. It is simply a data point, a status report on the current safety level of their internal nervous system. That's it. And separating their behavior from your own self-worth is the single most powerful thing you can do for yourself. So we'll end on this thought. This metaphor really says it all, doesn't it? You can't argue or demand or shame someone into opening up to you. You cannot force a flower to bloom by yelling at it. All you can do is change the environment. You can provide the patience, the understanding, and the safety, the rich soil, where they might, just might, one day feel safe enough to open all on their own. Thank you for listening.